r/ask Reddit. What was the please stop school presentation that you witnessed? Someone in my class did a book report on the dictionary. The teacher was pissed. All of us students thought it was hilarious. Never heard the end of the presentation. Edit. Thank you so much for the gold. I've never had it before. What a treat. Damn. I wish I had thought of that. I hated book reports. Me too. I was the kid who always just watched the movie. In college, someone was doing a presentation on Nelson Mandela and kept referring to Africans as African Americans. My mom had a black friend from the UK who was also Muslim. She came out to the US for business and people were shook by this black lady in a hijab with a British accent. Someone called her an African American and she said, I really hope I don't sound American. Had a boyfriend who immigrated from South Africa with his family as a teenager. One of his parents was from South Africa. One was American. He was African American, but also white. It was a long slog through high school with that one. This was in Ducking College. Our bio finals were to present on any topic that was related to biology. A group was presenting on types of protection for sex. Not once did they refer to any body parts or fluids by their scientific names. So, yes, they literally had dong, cum, and kitten on slides and read off them. Everyone kept glancing over at our professor, who had this look like he was just constantly cleaning his glasses because he couldn't believe what he was witnessing. They got Kentucky ducked on grading. I googled Kentucky ducked but it just delivered porn results. An autocorrect from completely, perhaps? Not a presentation, but during our school assemblies we often had student performers, which were usually musically inclined individuals or theater kids doing a scene monologue. One kid decided to do a stand-up comedy routine about a girl giving him a blowjob. So awkward and the principal had to interrupt him. For some reason the pure cringe from this hit me like a truck. I can only imagine what being in the audience would be like. Edit. Thank you all for the upvotes and the happy cake day. A friend of mine did a stand-up routine for a talent show. I laughed for him because no one else was. His younger brother came up to me afterwards and thanked me for laughing because he didn't want to be the one to fake it. It was my sophomore year English class. This kid who was reading his essay in front of the class and started to stumble over some of the words. The teacher recognized the words and found the essay the kid plagiarized and started helping him read it. The kid didn't understand what was happening and just thanked the teacher and kept reading. Edit. Holy crap. Gold. Thank you. I don't have time to reply to everyone, but here's a few more details for clarity. This was in like 2004. The teacher found the essay on the internet. He gave the kid a day to try again. The kid was stumbling over the words because they were big ones he'd evidently never seen before. Everything else is fuzzy since it was over 15 years ago. Cheers. Thanks for the upvotes. Imagine the kid realized and said duck it and kept reading. That's how I'm imagining it. I watched a kid in his last year of high school start his presentation with I might duck up while presenting this because I plagiarized the whole thing last night and barely practiced. The prof didn't hear what the student said, but just acted like they did and gave a smile and thumbs up signaling that the student could begin presenting. The whole class heard it, but everyone was just too shocked and curious to see if he would actually be able to pull it off. I'm pretty sure he did. Ballsy move, Jason. Ballsy move. In history class, we all had to do a presentation about some sort of injustice in the world. One kid chose a prison camp for his topic. All his PowerPoint slides were photos of men being stripped, chained, whipped, sodomized, and forced to give blowjobs. We were 13. Edit. Yes. His project was about Abu Ghraib. How far did the teacher let him go before he was stopped? The second slide. Teacher interrupted to ask how many explicit pictures there were. The student showed the thumbnails of the slides and it was something like 40 slides long. In Speech 101 in college we had to pick a children's book and voice act each character. That was it. That was the entire assignment. Well, one student decided to take it to the next level. He chose a Berenstain Bear book and decided to not only do voice acting for every single one of the characters, but also act it out. It was physically uncomfortable to watch this guy scramble around the room and pretend to be bears and other animals. It was not well done. It was awful. That sounds hilarious. It definitely would have been really fine if it wasn't so sad, if that makes sense. Everyone in the room was very uncomfortable. You could feel it. The one where my school got ripped off by paying a guy who claimed to be on SpongeBob to come talk to us about drugs. He did look kind of like Tom Kenny, I guess. I was also thinking backward about the question. I thought OP meant when did the school have to tell everyone to quit doing something? For me it was banning Pokemon cards in 1998 because toddlers were brawling over that first edition Charizard. That is so specific and also happened at my elementary school the exact same year. Psychology class. Our final was to research and do a presentation on a mental illness. One group chose necrophilia. Started with the first slide saying let's crack open a cold, don't eat it. Thank you for the silver and the gold. D. They did that joke on Criminal Minds, for Christ's sake. It's pretty tired, just separate and apart from the inappropriateness. The students showed us the slideshow. I wasn't the kid who made it. LOL. For 8th grade talent show, 2 girls sang the Mr. Bledel song. Mr. Bledel was a good-looking, recently college graduated teacher that basically was about how cute they thought he was. Even then, it was incredibly uncomfortable, and I remember looking at the teacher's face and he didn't seem very amused. God, I would hate to be that teacher. I remember in high school one young and cool English teacher had to stop teaching English to seniors because they were so obviously obsessed with him. It was gross and uncomfortable. I've told this on Reddit a few times, but it's truly unforgettable. Smart kid in the class was giving a deeply sourced PowerPoint presentation on religion in Europe. He opens up his files, proceeds to click on his project named Enger. He says clearly I wasn't really paying any attention when I named my file. He gives a presentation. He stutters and sweats bullets while we watch in utter disbelief. The word is sitting there on the top of the file heading the whole time. This was during a study abroad semester while attending a cultural communication class. He had to rot in his own shit after that. Bro, what happened to him though? Some people left class for the day because of the incident. The teacher asked everyone to stay to talk about what happened and the guy broke down a bit. It was uncomfortable. Luckily for him the class was ending within the next week or two, so I believe he took his exams and such outside of the classroom. Some students took to Facebook to oust him. I honestly don't really remember seeing him much after that. I think the students in the program avoided him mostly. Edit. The people who left class were black friends of his that were kinda shocked and they just decided to walk out. I was in 4th grade and a girl in my class did an oral report on Martin Luther King and how he was a hero for freeing the slaves. To be fair, my 5th grade teacher thought the same thing. A woman with her master's degree. People wonder why my state is one of the lowest ranked in the US and I tell them that. Edit. Jesus Christ, how bad is public education everywhere else? Edit 2. First, it's Arizona. Second, thanks for the gold. Edit 3 as an explanation on why this school was so bad. The district chose a politically expedient candidate to take over as principal when the old principal was being transferred to a new school. Only problem was, open bracket, as I found out years afterwards doing my own research, that she was not only fired from the previous districts she had been an administrator with, but the reason was because she was an abhorrent racist and race supremacist. Before she started, our school had a good handful of good teachers, I would say. People who gave a shit about their students, did a good job and all that. Within the first year half of them chose to leave the district, broke their contracts, or took early retirement. By year 3, there were 6 of them left. Before this principal took over, we had probably close to 600 or so kids enrolled from K6. By the time I was removed from the school by my parents, we were pushing 200. The district was falling over themselves to get teachers to teach at this school, so they evidently took whoever applied, I am convinced. It came to no one's surprise but the principal that the district chose not to renew her contract when the time came. As far as I know, the new principal has repaired as much of the damage as he could, but that woman was a stain that will probably never come off. I had a teacher turn the class on me for suggesting that a roadrunner was a bird. It's me. I did this. I cringe about it to this day. Nearly 20 years later, I was 16 and in high school. My high school was going to do a spring talent show. I wanted to be in the talent show and show off my talents. The problem was, my actual talents are not ones that I could show off at a talent show. So I decided to try singing. I have never sung in my life. I have never had voice lessons. I was in my prime weeb stage and chose an anime song to sing. I didn't know any actual Japanese. I had just memorized the lyrics from hearing the song so many times. Luckily I didn't make it past auditions. But several people saw an overweight girl in a Sailor Moon shirt try to sing Butterfly despite having never done any singing or voice training ever in her life. Nearly 20 years later. And remembering it keeps me awake at night. What are your actual talents? Surviving lethal doses of public embarrassment. When I was in high school, a girl from an absurdly wealthy family gave a presentation on why the rich are just as oppressed as anyone. This was in a normal public school in Kentucky where about 90% of the students were middle class at best. You could feel the eyes rolling in that room. You just reminded me of my high school speech class where one assignment was to give a speech on your pet peeve. A rich girl gave hers on other people's fashion choices, including such gems as when shoes, bags, and belt don't match, wearing out of style clothing, and my personal favorite, wearing the same outfit more than once. In my entire life since, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone more out of touch with an audience, or reality. So, horse people, or coal people, the wealthy girl's family, that is, somehow. Being from Kentucky, I have to think they're horse people if you describe them as absurdly wealthy. Lots of money, no sense, and so much lack of any morals whatsoever, the laws do not apply to them. In 1984, when I was in 6th grade, each class did the winter concert. The 8th grade football team sang I'm Dreaming of a Black Christmas in blackface. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Bayview Middle School. Edit. It was 1984, not 1985. 1985. Green Bay Middle School. Sounds about right. Did the teachers stop them? We were supposed to have Arnold Schwarzenegger come to our school sometime around 1999 or 2000. Principal was hyping it up for weeks. Then about 4 days before his arrival it was announced on Friday that he wasn't coming. Fast forward to Monday, during morning announcements it's announced he's changed his mind and is coming to our school tomorrow as planned. Come Tuesday morning everyone is excited. We're all amped to meet the Terminator. A handful of parents even came with VHS copies of his movies, posters, act. We're all going to our gym auditorium, taking our seats. Principal takes the stage, takes the moment to make some announcements. Award on a roll. Perfect attendance. Act. Finally she starts hyping up around Schwarzenegger. Everyone is excited and on edge when she basically says here's Arnie, and it's the vice principal in a leather jacket holding a shotgun. Not a toy one either. And spends 30-40 minutes trying to hype us up for FC80, all the while doing the absolute worst impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger I've ever heard. Once we realized Arnold wasn't there, people start shouting, screaming at the principals for lying to us, along with some of the parents who came to this. I do hope someone has footage of this meltdown of a bunch of K5 kids shouting and screaming at the principals because Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't come to our school. Because I clearly remember 2-3 people having camcorders. Edit. Thanks for the gold. Honestly thought this would get buried. And can anyone explain the Office reference? I genuinely hate the show, so I'm not sure why people kept bringing it up. As for some of the questions, Arnold was scheduled but cancelled last minute on not only my school but my cousin's who he was supposed to go to on Wednesday. Instead he only went to one school in my city, which I don't remember which one ATM, but I'll add it if I remember it. Yes, the principals apologized the next day, and the vice principal changed schools the following school year. I have absolutely no idea why he thought bringing a shotgun was a good idea, but I think he was attempting to look the part, which, considering his massive gut, really didn't help. Was the real Mr. Schwarzenegger ever really booked for this gig? Has anyone seen an envelope laying around? It say Bruce Springsteen tickets on it. My sophomore year we had to make a presentation about any person that made an impact on the world that was inspirational. Someone chose Hitler. I mean, he did make an impact on the world. Not necessarily a good impact, but still, a very very bad impact. Like Ollivander said, Hitler did great things. Terrible, yes, but great. When I was a 9th grade student, we had to present the poems we made in English class. Most people wrote about embracing their culture, loving their friends, etc. And then there was that one kid who recited a lifestyle poem which compared fat people to beached whales and said that people who don't work out will die before they're 20. In grade 8, my English teacher asked us to do a presentation in the form of propaganda. The examples she used included Hitler's campaign to brainwash Germans into thinking Jews were bad. So naturally, my group thought that propaganda equals bad. And we made a presentation asking people to join a movement to ban obesity and obese people. We didn't actually hate obese people. In fact, I was overweight at the time. We just thought the point of the assignment was to be provocative and brainwash the students with hatred. Our teacher asked us to stop the presentation and said we were being ostracizing. My project partner pointed out that she literally showed us Hitler propaganda as an example. But the teacher said regardless, our project was not appropriate for school. So we redid the project, and this time our propaganda involved asking people to join a book club. Our English teacher was elated. Important edit. So I was revisiting my old school assignments, and apparently, I wrote an essay for the same teacher, but this time it was AP English, and guess what? It was about the same topic, but it was in a much nastier tone. The teacher wanted it in the style of A Modest Proposal by Jonathan Swift, which, if you don't know, is a satirical essay proposing that we eat children of poor families to alleviate poverty. And so my proposal was about how to solve junk food addicts racking up healthcare costs. My solution was to force addicts to go to rehab, and rehab was supposed to be the local landfill. They would live at the landfill and eat the garbage. The analogy was that junk food equals garbage. I think I actually got very high marks on this essay. I wonder if my teacher remembered the obesity propaganda I did 5 years earlier. But I truly believe this essay was a lot nastier, yet my teacher was okay with it. You should have actually done pro-Nazi propaganda, since she said that was alright. This was a Spanish class in college, and I think the assignment was something like talk about your best friend or some such. Just kind of a softball assignment so you could practice using the vocabulary, and one classmate's friend was evidently a friend with benefits. Was there anyone there with no friends? The lonely kids had best friends who were in Canada. An anti-bullying campaign. They spent most of the presentation explaining different types and ways to harass people. Bullying increased in school and everything got 10 times worse now that the students were more educated on the subject. So, basically it was a class of what not to do. Those never end well. They sincerely meant to try and get people to become aware and stop it when they see it, but we never had heard of some of the tactics they described. Not at school, but when I was in high school my church youth group went to this church camp. For those uninitiated, Thursday nights are normally the really emotional nights. Well, this camp was different. Thursday night the guy that started the camp comes on stage and begins giving a bunch of middle school and high school boys and girls the sex talk. All I remember from that night was the quote, "Just because there's a hole there doesn't mean you have to stick something in it. But then the boat will sink." I've never seen anyone else acknowledge that Thursday night at church camp is always emotional. I no longer feel alone. Compared to some other stories in here, this is minor, but it was a group project for one of my literature classes. There were 5 people in this group. According to the rubric for this assignment, everyone was supposed to have equal speaking parts. One of the members in this group would just not stop talking. Half of their presentation was just her talking, and she went on about each of her slides for like 5 minutes. The rest of her group members had like 1 or 2 slides each, and she had, if I recall correctly, 5 or 6. She would also interject into the other group members' parts to add her opinions. The look on my professor's face screamed just shut up already every time she talked. Oh man, this could have been me in high school or college. I was such a know-it-all and talked way too much. I cringe so hard when I think about it. This was my presentation, and it was about the science behind how Mountain Dew can dissolve a mouse. This was in 4th grade. Needless to say, I got some parent complaints. Every year someone did the Coke and Bones experiment at my school. Every year it won an award. As a Coke and Bones teeth kid who won my science fair in 4th grade as well, I have this to say: eat shit, suckers. Not a literal presentation really, but we had an assembly in high school where the students that helped plan homecoming would announce the nominations for homecoming court. It always had a cute little theme and like a short skit involved. Well, at one point the audio they were using as the cue for the skit failed. They just kind of paused for technical difficulties. But this one girl from the planning committee started singing a random Disney song a cappella while improvising a dance to go along with it. I guess as a distraction from them trying to fix the audio, she kept trying to get people to join in with her. But nobody did, and she eventually just kind of trailed off mid-song and started pouting that nobody would sing with her. Then once they got the audio fixed for the skit, she pouted and snapped the way through the rest of her lines, which made everything even more uncomfortable. The other famous one was when a girl in our class running for student government referenced a hashtag that she was trying to make popular during her campaign speech to the whole school. The hashtag was something catchy about her having a big ass. There was a genuine collective yikes from the crowd when she said it. I don't think she got elected. The girl who gave the valedictorian speech at my high school graduation ended it with "What's cooler than being cool? Ice cold." Alright. Us. We were to make a film retelling the story of Hamlet. It was supposed to be 5 minutes. Being the creative nutcases we were, we made a 22-minute film complete with a commercial break which made fun of prior books we had to read. Ophelia was a Jersey Shore horse who refused to take her Prozac. Polonius was a perverted Greek philosopher. And Hamlet was a depressed emo. Sword fights were video game based, with Mortal Kombat themes. We presented it to the class and were cut off after 5 minutes. We received an A. This sounds like my group. We had to do a project on Romeo and Juliet, so we submitted a half-hour film that we created. It was titled CSI Verona, so you can probably imagine what occurred. Man, you and you/Commander Shepard got some fun. Cooperative people. I had to struggle to get everyone to even contribute to projects in high school, considering people would just leave halfway through the school day to smoke weed and just go home from then on. I hated high school. During nursing school, a guy decided to use My Little Pony figures as props to a seminar room of about 100 people. He told the class that he would refer to himself as his pony name for the duration. Don't remember what it was. Also, not that this is relevant, but he wore a black leather trench coat and it was pretty hot in the room, yet he never took it off. Cringe. Edit. He wasn't a student, he came in to do a talk about epilepsy and his experience with healthcare. We got to review them at the end and I gave him a good score because he actually had a lot of interesting things to say about his condition, even if it was cringy. How does a Brinny survive nursing school? I've seen the culture that evolves in the classes. It's super preppy. They would be eaten alive. He wasn't a student, he came in to do a talk. Frequently we get random people in to talk about their illness or experience in healthcare. His talk was about epilepsy. A teacher asked us to compare the cells in our body to anything we can think of. Obviously some students compared the parts of the human cell to schools, jails, libraries, normal things, right? Well, this one student that sits next to me had a different idea. These were group projects, keep in mind. This girl managed to strong-arm her group to compare the human cell to the infamous webcomic Homestuck. She did this successfully. Not only did I feel dirty, but her group felt worse for having their names on it. Oh god, this sounds like something I would do in 6th grade. I had a friend who deliberately wrote moral of the story instead of moral on a presentation and I have never forgiven him since. We had this senior talent show that a few male students could sign up for. No idea why it was only guys, or how the few people even got nominated for it, and they all had to do their own act. Some sang, some danced, some put on a funny skit. Possibilities were endless. Well, each year someone who never got told they were good at singing would end up on stage. One time this guy did the evolution of boy band songs and it was just below average singing for, no joke, 15 minutes straight. Bonus skit that I'm glad didn't stop because it was hilarious. One guy did a wrestling skit with different movie characters and my friend was the announcer. When Indiana Jones got into the ring, my friend announced it's the BDSM bad boy himself, and somehow that slipped by all the school staff members and made it into the DVDs the school sold. Another friend of mine sang Disney princess songs while wearing a Sonic hat and got 2nd place, and at least 3 girls gave him their number. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.